Good morning.
Good morning. I think we're holding by Shal Reb Shimon ben Yossi ben Lakunya and Samach Beis Amid Beis. Okay. See that? It's maybe like 15 lines up. 13 lines up. Okay, we thank Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. It's close of our learning. We should have Beis Mikdash immediately. Reb Naftali, I saw Yossi Keller yesterday. You know Yossi Keller?
Mm-hmm.
So he explained to me something interesting. He said that the Shita Mekubetzes makes a lot of emendations to the Gemaras and Kachim. He doesn't do that to other Masechtas. He said that the Sansino print of the Talmud, which was some in the 1400s or the 1500s, whatever, he told me the Hebrew dates. He said it took them 36 years. They didn't even finish because they had Talmidei Chachamim that were working on every Rashi, every Tosfos, making sure that the manuscripts were correct and that the printing was done right. Then those were Yidden that were printing it. Then the Venice printer was a non-Jew, and he came along and he said, "I don't want to print volumes. I want to print a full set." So he just took the remaining ones and he just printed them, and we ended up with versions of the Gemara that were not worked out. So the Shita Mekubetzes takes the manuscripts and he works it out. He does the work that the printer didn't do when he was trying to get a full set. So that's why in Kachin, that's why on the side of it you have the Shita Mekubetzes that's correcting. Another thing he showed me is that he showed me a manuscript of the Shita Mekubetzes that in his own Gemara, he was using a Venice edition. In his own Gemara, he was putting in commas when he was learning. So he would divide up the Gemara into pieces. There were little dots that he put between words.
So
Anyway,
what we're reading now is the Shita Mikubetzes.
no, we're reading the corrupted version by the Venice printer.
Uh-huh.
And inside, you can see the Shita Mikubetzes' notes.
Interesting.
Okay. Shal Reb Shimon ben Yossi ben Lakunyas Reb Yossi. So I forget Reb Shimon. I forget who Reb Yossi ben Lakunya was. Um, but anyway, this is his son, and he's asking Reb Yossi. I seem to remember that there was someone that they had to bring back. There was a Yossi ben Lakunya that he wasn't studying Torah, and then I don't remember. Did they mention anything from Bab Metzia? I seem to remember that with the sage that said, "Let's go bring him back." Anyway, okay, maybe I'm mistaken. So he asks Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi is a student of Rabbi Akiva. It says, "I'm here, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Avir yesh ben kevesh lemizbeach." He asks this like a question. Is it true that Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says that between the ramp and the altar is a small space? Now, the altar, the mizbeach, was 32 amos by 32 amos, right? The square. The ramp was also 32 amos. The ramp was also 32 amos, but they weren't pushed all the way together. There was a little gap over there. You like mind the gap, right? Like in the subway, and they had to get over that little space um, when they stepped over from the ramp to the altar. Is it true that Reb Shimon says that? Amalai. So Rabbi Yossi responds to him, "You don't think so? You don't say so?" I have a pasuk that says, "V'asisa elisecha habasar v'hadam." We have a comparison between the basar and the dam. You'll do your offerings. You will make your burnt offerings, the flesh and the blood. It says, what's the comparison? Madam bezrika, just like when you sprinkle the blood, you have to throw it because the person who's sprinkling the blood, he stands. Well, it's we're talking about. you're standing on the ground and you're sprinkling the blood also on the below the line, because it's a regular oila. It's not an oilas oif. An oilas oif was above the red line. The oilas behema was below. So, but you're on the ground and you throw it on the wall, on the two that are four, right? Af basar, also the flesh is also bizrika, is also thrown, which means you stand on the ramp because of the gap. You just throw it from over there, from the ramp onto the fire. Amalai. So Reb Shimon ben Yossi says that's not a real proof. Shani Yomer, because I say that pasuk is talking about something else. I say that it's Oimed B'tzad Marachav Azorek. I agree that he has to throw it, but he doesn't have to throw it from the ramp. He could throw it from the walkway, which is on the side. Amalai, Rabbi Yossi says, if that's the case, Kishu Zayrek, when he throws it, the Maracha Deluka Zayrek and the Maracha Shena Deluka Zayrek. Is he throwing it onto a fire that's burning or before the fire starts burning? Heavy Yaimer, the Maracha Deluka Zayrek. He's throwing it onto the part of the fire that's burning. Wants it to burn. So obviously he's going to throw it. So why would I need the pasuk to compare the blood to the flesh? If the fire's on, you can't just put it on the fire. You have to throw it onto the fire because it's burning. The Gemara says, Hasam, Mishum Delayefsher. Because it's impossible. This is part of the question. Because it's impossible to do it any other way. So I don't need the hekesh of a basar v'adam. So obviously, what's the hekesh coming to tell me? It's coming to tell me that there's a gap between the ramp and the fire, and he's throwing it from the ramp. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa says that it can't be that he's standing on the side of the altar, because kidam. It's just like the blood. Madam avir karka mafsikai, just like by the blood when you throw it onto the wall of the altar. You throw it, and there's a space, not just a space from the vessel to the wall, but there's actually a space on the floor that it has to pass over. So you're actually passing over the karka azara to get it from the vessel to the wall. Madam avir karka mafsika, basar avir karka mafsika, also the flesh. It's passing over a space on the floor to get to the fire, which means that he's standing on the ramp and he's throwing it over the gap between the ramp and the altar, and from there it's going to the fire. Okay. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, this is Rav Yehuda the Amira. He says, "Shnei kvasim ktanim hayetzim min hakevesh." This means not two sheep, but it means there are two ramps that would protrude off the major ramp, off the big ramp that was going down on the south side. That from those two ramps that came off the main ramp, you could either go to the Yesod, which means you could go to the foundation, which is one amma raised off the floor, or you can go to the Soviv, we said was 6 ammas raised off the floor. Yeah, one to the right and one to the left. One on the east and one on the south. I'm sorry. He's walking on the south. One on the east and one on the west. He's facing north. He's walking up. He's on the south facing north. He's walking up. You can either go this way or this way. He goes this way, he goes to the Sefer. If he goes this way, he goes to the foundation. And they're separated from the altar a hair's breadth. As it says, Saviv. There's a round. If these ramps would reach actually the Mizbeach, then means that it wasn't flush with the altar. It wasn't pushed all the way up to the altar. It was one little bit separated from the actual altar.
Like 2 pieces or they put together.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Legos, you can click them in. This wasn't clicked in. This was actually a separate piece that was pushed close. And how close was it? There was still a tiny gap that was between them. I think what it means over here is that even the other ramps were separated from the altar. The other ramps didn't make it all the way to the altar. They also were separated by a jump. I think that's what it means. Because it says Saviv. How does Saviv tell me that the ramps weren't attached? Maybe because the Saviv needed to surround it. If the ramp was attached, maybe it wouldn't be surrounding it perfectly because there'd be something protruding. Let me see their note. Number 40. Oh no. Okay, 1 second. It is not clear whether the minor ramps jutted out at an angle from the main ramp, as depicted in the diagram in the standard edition of the Gemara, or whether they ran alongside the main ramp. In the case of the ramp to the ledge, even if it ran alongside the main ramp, it would still give direct access to the ledge because the ledge extended all the way to the structure of the main ramp. Regarding the ramp to the base, however, since the base ended in the southwest corner of the altar, the ramp would have to protrude at an angle for it to reach the base. Nevertheless, it is possible that even this ramp ran alongside the main ramp, that it ended at the ground, requiring the kohen to walk a few amos. So, but what does it mean when it says Saviv?
The Soiviv continuously went all the way around, where the Yisoid had a break in the middle. So Soiviv did touch went all the way around the Mizbeach. If you added this thing, it would have created a letter Q.
What they say is that it says around, which implies that the perimeter of the altar should be uninterrupted all the way around. Nothing should be attached to the sides of the altar that would prevent one from running a thread all the way around it. Gemara uses a different sort to teach that the main ramp must be detached from the altar. The verse cited here would not suffice to teach that the main ramp must be detached from the altar, because this verse requires only a minimal gap, whereas the main ramp had to be recognizably separated from the altar. So that's who quotes Taisvus.
My edition has a diagram. Do you have that?
No. Oh, in a traditional Gemara, I have a diagram, but I'm not seeing the separation between ramp.
It doesn't show that, but it does show the Sove very clearly and large.
Yeah, but I'm missing is one point. When it says that there was a gap, what does it mean there was a gap? Does it mean there's a gap between the ramp and the Seiviv, or does it mean there's a gap between the Seiviv and the Mizbeach? Can't be a gap between the Seiviv and the Mizbeach, because the way they built the Mizbeach was they laid the foundation, and then on top of that they put another block. There can't be a gap in between that. It has to be a gap between the ramp and the Seiviv. You have a picture? Yeah, okay, so that's the main ramp. Now it looks like the small ramp. Muvdolin min hamizbeach. They were separated from the altar by a hair's breadth. Now the they must mean the ramps. Must mean the ramps.
There's actually two ends to these little ramps. There's a ramp that touches the ramp, and there's the other end of the ramp that could have touched the Mizbeach. So it's two. It's two ends.
Yes, the problem is that one of them that doesn't touch the altar would be the one that goes to the Seiviv that doesn't touch the altar. It's separated by a hair's breadth. But the one that's touching the Yisoid is not separated by a hair's breadth. It's separated by a few amos. So I'm not sure exactly what this means. Okay, we'll figure it out hopefully as we move.
Does it create a halakhic issue? This separation?
You mean if it's not attached? If it's makiv? If it is attached?
Either way, is there a halakhic?
It's saying that's how it's supposed to be. It says that Saviv means that nothing is interrupting all the way around the Mizbeach. We're up to Rabavo. Rabavo Amar Ravua. Rabavo says that the ramps don't reach the Mizbeach because it says Ravua. That means the Mizbeach needs to be square. And if they would reach the Mizbeach, then the Mizbeach wouldn't be squared, have things protruding from it. Where it says, Vitzrich l'michtav sava, Vitzrich l'michtav revuah, where we're in 62b. It has to say both surrounding, and it has to also say square, to teach me that there's nothing attached to the Mizbeach. If they would only say that surrounding the Mizbeach, they could have thought that the Mizbeach would actually be round. Because Rahman Rabuah, it says no, that it's square. Because Rahman Rabuah would say that it's square, could have thought that, oh, interesting, that a square doesn't have to mean that it's a square. It could mean that it's a rectangle. It's longer than its width. That's Rahman Saviv comes to tell me that it's Ravua all the way around. Now, that it's a square all the way around, not just that it has, not just a parallelogram. The word, right? 1 second. That's interesting. Okay, but still, I haven't used it since. Okay. Okay. Tanan Hassam. One pasuk says, it's interesting. It's the Zrika is on the Mizbeach Saviv. No? It's not even talking about the Mizbeach. It's talking about that the Zrika is done all around the Mizbeach. Then it says, the other pasuk says, actually it's talking about the Mizbeach. It says, Ravua Yia Mizbeach. Ravua Yia Mizbeach, that the Mizbeach is square. Unless maybe the Saviv, what's the Saviv? Maybe the Saviv is, maybe the Saviv is a pasuk from Yecheskel. When it says surrounding or around, is that quoting from Vayikra, or is it quoting from Yecheskel? Shenemar Saviv. Okay.
Vayikra.
It's in Vayikra. Oh, so it's not even referring to the literal reading of that. Is not referring to the Mizbeach. It's referring to placing the blood all around the Mizbeach. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Okay.
Ravua is from Shemos.
Yeah, Ravua is referring. The square is referring to the Mizbeach. That the Mizbeach should be square, but the Saviv is coming from like a different context. Okay, Tanan Hassam was taught in a Mishnah. This Mishnah is in Midas again, which is referring to the structure of the Beis Hamikdash. It says the Hakevesh v'Mizbeach Shishim Mishtayim. This is very interesting. The altar and the ramp is 62 amas. Now, this is a problem because it's really 32 plus 32 is how much? 64. So the Gemara asks right away, what are you telling me? It's 62. That's not how you do math. 32 plus 32 is 64, not 62. Gemara answers, Nimtza Peireach Amal Yised V'Amal Sevet. You see, there's an overlap of 2 amas because the ramp went over the base. There's 2 amas of 1 amma of the base and 1 amma of the Sevet. And the ramp went over that. Now, in the pictures, in that art scroll pictures, you see, what's in the art scroll in the corner that you showed me? It goes over. Yeah, this is a good picture. One second. Am I showing you the right one? Yeah. You see how the ramp, the top of it is not exactly where the bottom is. The top of the ramp is a lip. It has 2 amas in over the bottom one.
Right.
Which means that there's an overlap of 2 amas. So 32 plus 32 is now going to be 62. because 2 amas are covering, is overlap, so instead of 64. Okay. Amar Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama says, Kol kivshei kvasim, all of the ramps, whether it's the ramp, the big ramp or the small ramps, shalish amais la'ama. This is talking about, how do you refer to this? The incline. The incline is an incline of 3 amas for every amma going up. 1 amma up is 3 amas long. That's the incline. Chutz mikivshay shel mizbeach shahaya shalish ames umechza ve'etzba v'shlish etzba the zachrusa with or using the thumb. When it says the finger here, it's referring to the thumb. So Rashi goes through a calculation over here. Let's see.
I sent some pictures from on the Warriors chat just to look at.
So if it goes up 9 amas, right? If it goes up 9 amas and it's 32 amas long, so every amma up, you have to divide 32 by 9. Well, that's not, it would be just not a whole number. What would it come out to? It would be in between 3 and 4. What is it? About 3.5, right? About 3.5. 28. You got to practice more. 28
it says here 3/8.
3/8.
33 and 3/8 total.
Look at this. Oh, this is your Montreal friend,
Rabbi Sputz, his brother.
Uh-huh. So the one in Boca's brother,
Uncle.
His uncle. Okay, yeah, this is not telling me exactly that, but basically, what other ramps did we have that would say that it's 1 to 3? And we're saying except for the Mizkevis of the Mizbeach, which was at a bigger incline, which is 1 to 3.5, and a finger and a third of a finger. So every amma, Rashi says, every amma up would be 3 amas and a half and an etzba, and a third of etzba. So when you put in every amma the incline of 3.5, then you're up to 30. 31 and a half. 31 and a half. So what would be, what is it saying, 31 and a half? For every amma, 3.5. Let me just use this pencil. If I take 32 ammas and I times it by 3, that's going to give me 96, right? 96. And now, if I do 9 ammas, right? So 96 into 9 ammas is going to be 10 ammas each. It's 96 half ammas. 96 half ammas, right? 96 half ammas to 9 ammas incline is going to be 10 half ammas per amma. So 10 half ammas. What's 10 half ammas? Is going to be 5.5. Yeah, 5.5. 10 half ammas. 5. That's way too much. What am I doing wrong? Oh, because I'm doing it by 3. I divided it by 3. I have to divide it by 2. I'm sorry. 32 in half is going to be 64. Let's do 64. I want to use half ammas. So now 9 into 64 is going to be 7, right? So now I have 7 half amas per amma.
You have
7 is 3.5. So each amma is really 3.5. 7 half amas is 3.5. I have 1 amma left over. So that 1 amma I have to divide into 9. So, right? So how many etzbais are in an amma? So I have 1 amma. No, I have 1/2 an amma. I have 1/2 an amma left over. So he says that every half yud beis etzbais is 3 tvachim, is a half amma. 12. I need 12 to 12 etzbais are in a half an amma, and I have a half amma left over. So what I have to do is I have to divide. I have to give each 3.5 another etzba. That would give me 9. Plus I have another 3 etzbais left over, an etzba and a third. Right? An etzba and a third. Now what does the Gemara say? The Gemara says, "Chutz mikiv shom zeh shalish amas umechtas 3.5 amas ve'etzba u'shlish etzba and a third." It works out. You okay with that math? Did you follow what I did? Yeah. I divided the. We have 9 amas up and 32 amas this way. I want to use half amas, so I made it into, instead of 32, 64. 64. The 9 into 64 would be 7. Which would be 7 half amas, which is really 3.5. All right. I have 1 half amma left over. That half amma I have to divide the half amma of the land. I have to divide by 12 etzbais. Now the 12 etzbais have to go into the 9 tvachim. So what I do is I put 1 etzba in. I have 3 left over, and then I give each one a third. So it's a 3.5, an etzba and a third. Okay.
What happened to it's 7 times 9? You said it was 64. It's 63. So that's 1 there.
It comes out to 63, and then the 1 half amma left over I divided into etzbais, which are fingers.
Okay.
And there's 12 fingers in a half. Why are there 12 fingers in a half? Because every 4 etzbais are every 4 etzbais is a tefach. And an amma is 6 tvachim. Half amma is 3 tvachim. So how many etzbais are in a half amma? 12. 3 times 4. Yeah, one of the things Yossi Keller was telling me yesterday is the way of measuring the etzba is you measure it like it says over here. Bezechrusa means with a thumb. But you don't measure the top of the thumb like this. You actually measure the knuckle, which is smaller. Right. You measure the knuckle, you come out. He had like a whole calculation of how many barley grains it's going to be. No, but you don't measure the fingers. It's actually 4 knuckles, 4 thumb knuckles. 4 thumb knuckles. Okay, the next Mishnah says, a carbon mincha, which was made out of flour and oil, you had to do a scoop. And that scoop was done with 3 fingers. Now, where did you have to do that? When it came to shechting an animal, if it was kodesh kadashim, remember those sacrifices that were only for 1 day, 1 night. And there was me'ila, if you made personal use of it, had to be on the north. Comes along the Mishnah and says, mincha, I know it's kodesh kadashim, but it doesn't have to be on the north. You could do the scoop, you're not shechting it. Doing a scoop, and that could be anywhere in the Azara. It has to be eaten inside the courtyard, only to the male kayanim. You could eat it in any way, however you want to cook it. For that day, the remainder of the day, that night, and only until chatzais. We said until chatzais was because to distance you from leaving until the morning. Rebbe Lazar comes and tells me a chiddush. This is Rebbe Lazar, the Amira, Rebbe Lazar ben Pedas. He says, a friend of Rabbi Yochanan. He says, Mincha shenikmitza behechel ksheira. He says, the Mishnah says you could do it anywhere in the Azara. He says, I'm going to add in that even if you did it in the sanctuary, it's also kosher. Because we find that when you take the frankincense off the showbread to offer it up, that's considered like a kaimetz. And you would take it from, where would you take it from? From the sanctuary, from the heichal. You take it out of the sanctuary and you'd bring it to the altar, the outer altar, right? So that tells me that if you can do it like that, you can take the bezichim out from there. You can also do a kmitza on a regular mincha inside. Masav Reb Yirmiyah. Yirmiyah says, "V'kamat misham." Where's this pasuk? V'kamat misham. Yeah, it's in Vayikra at the beginning when it talks about the carbon mincha. It says they do a kmitza from there. It says mimakim sheraglei hazar aimdas. It's from there. What's the from there? It's where a regular person is able to stand. Azar, it can only be in the azara. You can't go into the heichal. So how can you tell me that it could be in the you could do kmitza in the heichal? Kamatz misham, from there, only where the people, where the owner of the mincha was standing. Ben Beseira Aimer minayin shem kamatz b'smal. Ben Beseira adds in. He says, how do you know if you use your left hand to do kmitza? Shiachsav yikmetz v'yamin. They have to redo it. You have to do it with the right hand. Talmud Laimar. Pasuk says misham makom shekamatz kvar. From where you did the kmitza before. What does it mean, kamatz kvar? It means you could put the kaimetz back in, and you could redo the kaimetz. Kamatz misham, that you can do a second kaimetz from the same place that you did before. And as you used your left hand, so you put it back in, then you do it again in the kaimetz from that place. That's Ben Beseira. So whatever the case is, I have a kash over here that Rebbe Elazar says you can do it from the heichal. Rabbi Yirmiyah quotes a brayso that says you can't do it from the heichal. Some say that Rabbi Yirmiyah himself answers the question. And some say that Amar Le Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Yirmiyah. No, it's obviously not Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva wasn't in this time. The correct version, the way it's adjusted here, is it's Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yaakov says to Rabbi Yirmiyah, Bar Tachlifa. That's the way Rabbi Yirmiyah was called. Oh, actually, no. Amalei Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Yirmiyah, Bar Tachlifa, Asbralach. He's calling him Bar Tachlifa. Isn't that interesting? I was reading it. The Rabbi Yirmiyah Bar Tachlifa. He said to Rabbi Yirmiyah Bar Tachlifa. He says, no. He says to Rabbi Yirmiyah, Bar Tachlifa. It's like, son of Tachlifa, listen up. Asbralach, let me explain to you. It says, Leinitzrecha elahachshi kol azar kula. When it says that you can take it from there, it doesn't mean to say that it can't be from the heichal. It means it's that anywhere in the azara is okay to do the kmitza. Just like the oila, which is kodesh kadashim, the burnt offering is holy of holies, and the mincha is holy of holies. And I could have thought that maybe just like the oila, the shechita has to be on the north, so to the mincha, the kmitza has to be on the north. And so therefore, comes along the pasuk and says that it doesn't have to be on the north; it can be anywhere in the azara. But that's not to exclude in the heichal. Kmitza is only by a kain, yeah. The Gemara says, how can you learn this comparison to the oila? It says, Ma oila shken kolol. The oila should be on the north. It has so many restrictions. It's also only it's entirely burnt. The carbon mincha is eaten. Can't do a comparison like that. The Gemara answers, well, it's fine because mechatas. The chatas is also slaughtered on the north. If you remember that Gemara, you slaughtered the chatas in the same place where you slaughtered the oila, right? The pasuk says. So that's also on the north, and the chatas is eaten. So you see, you can compare the mincha to something that's slaughtered on the north. It says, well, ma chatas ke mechaber sal chayve krisis. The chatas needs to be on the north because it's a special atonement for even someone that incurs excision, the punishment of excision, of karis. So that's why it has to be on the north. But the mincha is not an atonement for that. So it says, well, may Asham. Asham is also slaughtered on the north, and Asham does not atone for karis. Small Asham shkin minei damim. The Asham is blood. The application of the blood is the main part of the Asham. But a korban mincha doesn't have blood. Now, this question we could have asked on all of them. It says, the Gemara now says, Mikulu, malakulush keminidam. That you can ask on all of them. All of them are blood. So how can you do a comparison from the oila to the mincha? But what we're left with here is that you're trying to answer that I could have thought that the mincha needs to be on the tzafin, and that's why it says that the whole azara is acceptable, but not to exclude the heichal. It's because I could have thought that in the azara itself I had a restriction. It comes to tell me the whole azara. So you have two ways of looking at when it says the azara is acceptable. Is it coming to exclude the heichal, or is it coming to tell me to include the whole azara as opposed to just the north? So if I had a source to say that I would have thought that it's just the north, then it would be coming to include the whole azara, and it's not coming to exclude the eichel. So the Gemara says, "Ela itzrich," because I need the pasuk of the kamatz misham kasal kadait chamina hoyel v'ksivigisha el mizbeach. The pasuk says that you have to bring it close to the altar. Beher mimenu bekumtzei, and it says that you have to lift out from the mincha in his scoop. It says that he lifts it up from the flour and he burns it on the altar. Yeah, bless you. Ma hagasha bekeren maravis droimis, af kmitza bekeren maravis droimis. Just like it says that you have to bring it to the corner of the altar, which is the southwest corner. Could have thought that just like you have to bring it to the southwest corner, so to when you do the kmitza, it's on the southwest corner. Kamash Milan, v'kamas misham. They could do it anywhere in the azara, anywhere where the people were able to stand, anywhere in the azara. So therefore, it's not coming to exclude the heichal, it's coming to include the rest of the azara that is acceptable for kmitza. Okay. That was an answer to Rabbi Yirmiyah's question. We answered Rabbi Lazar. Amar Rabbi Yechanan says, Shlamim sheshachtem beheichal kseirim. Shnemar, b'shachtu Isai Pesach El Mayid. Rabbi Yechanan says that if you shechted an animal in the sanctuary, this is not appropriate. Probably you don't bring the animals into the house, right? You could bring the blood into the house. You could bring maybe the meat inside, but actually you don't bring the meat inside. Even the meat stays outside. But if someone shechted it inside, he says that it's kosher. He looks at it like this. He says, where does it say you're supposed to slaughter it? At the entrance to the tent of meeting. It says, obviously, the point is that it's supposed to be at the tent of meeting, but we allow you to do it at the entrance. So it says, the entrance should not be better than the tent of meeting, which that's the location where it's described where you do it. So for sure the tent of meeting is acceptable. You're even allowed to do it at the entrance. Yeah, that's the way he was learning it. Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. Rabbi Yechanan, it's Rabbi Yechanan ben Beseira. It's usually Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Aimer. Minayin shemikifo oivdik chav meskal azar. Let's say it's a time of the destruction. There's persecution, and the enemies are there surrounding the Beis HaMikdash. They're throwing in mortars and stones, and the Kohanim aren't able to be in the courtyard to do the service. So how do you know that? How do you know that they're allowed to go into the protection of the heichal, of the sanctuary, slaughter the sacrifice there? Oh, it doesn't say to slaughter. It says to eat over there the Kachi Kadashim. It says B'Kodesh HaKadashim Teichlenu. It says they can eat it in the Holy of Holies. You eat it. Okay, I have a pasuk that says it could be eaten inside. Why do we need the pasuk? Neima, we could say if you're going to tell me that when it says at the entrance of the tent of meeting, that means that the main thing is the tent of meeting, but the entrance is also acceptable. So I have another verse that says that it's eaten in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. That means that the main thing is the tent of meeting, the sanctuary, and the courtyard is also acceptable. So why do I need a pasuk to say B'Kodesh HaKadashim Teichlenu? I could use the same logic that you used for the shechita, that the main thing is the sanctuary. I'll use it for the eating, that the main thing is the sanctuary, because it says you can even eat in the court of if that logic is acceptable. Gemara says, hold on. Hasam, over there, when Rabbi Yochanan said the shechita is acceptable, it says avoda. The adam oived b'makam rabbi. Amrinan le'tafel chamer min eker. By the shechita, which is a service, a person serves in front of the master, and we say that the closer he is to the master, the better. That's the service. That's the service of the temple. One second. We'll do the comparison. 1 second. You'll see the contrast. However, achila de'ina d'meichel b'makam rabbi, but he doesn't eat with the master. We don't say, oh, if you're allowed to eat it in the if you eat it at the courtyard of the sanctuary, then that means for sure you're allowed to eat it in the sanctuary. It says when it comes to the service, when it says at the entrance, so it say for sure you can do it in the sanctuary. If it says you do it at the entrance, for sure you can do it inside. When it comes to the eating, you don't have that proof that just because it says in the courtyard, that means for sure it could be inside. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Any questions, Reb Naftali?
Just surprised at the idea of Kohanim eating inside the Kodesh Kodashim.
Yeah. Yeah. Shasat Chak. So it was the time of persecution. They had to go to eat inside. Yeah.
Was that like a brother that they, or was it they had the names wrong? What happened? Was it Shikra?
Right.
But was that brother?
I don't know. There was a Yeshua ben Beseira somewhere, but usually you don't have a Yochanan. I'm not familiar with the Yochanan ben Beseira, and Yeshitim Kumetzah suggests it based on manuscripts, used manuscripts. Yehuda ben Beseira is very common. Well, more common. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the Chatas Ha'oif. The Chatas Ha'oif, remember? The Chatas Ha'oif was different than the Oilas Ha'oif. Both of them had Malika, used the fingernail to make an incision in the back of the neck of the bird, right? Oif is a bird. And then the Oilas Ha'oif, the blood was applied on the upper part of the altar. Chatas Ha'oif, the blood was applied on the lower part of the altar. Chatas Ha'oif Haisenasis al Keren Dreimus Marabis. The Mishnah says that the sprinkling of the blood of the sin offering of the bird, this was the bird of the sin offering, was if someone couldn't afford those special sacrifices, the Oila B'Yered, remember the sliding scale, which was if he swore falsely or something, or he contaminated the temple, so he had to bring a special sacrifice. If he was wealthy, he brought an animal, otherwise he brought a bird, or maybe even a flower offering. But the Chatas Ha'oif, that bird, that was done on the southwest corner, the sprinkling of the blood. Really, you could apply it anywhere, but this was its designated location. That corner, the southwest corner, which the southwest corner would be the corner next to the ramp, closest to the sanctuary, right?
Wasn't that the one that was
No, southeast was missing, the southwest. There were three things that corner was used for below the middle line, below the equator. Is that can you use the equator when it's not a circle? Yeah. B'shleisha milmaila, and it was used three things above that middle line, the tennis net, the red line. The milmata, what was done below? Chatas ha'oif agashes asher adam. The Chatas Ha'oif, like we just said in the Mishnah, the blood was applied of the sin offering, the bird sin. Hagashes, we learned that also on this page, that the carbon mincha was brought close to the altar, but which corner of the altar? To the southwest. And also Shiari Adam, when you have a remainder of the blood, that was poured onto that corner as well. Mulmaila, what was that corner used above? This interesting Mishnah puts this to this corner, everything that was done on that corner. It says Nisach hayayin b'hamayim, the pouring of the wine was done on that corner, the pouring of the water. And also the Eilas Ha'oif, if there was too much on the eastern side, you would come over there and you could put it over there as well.
So,
Really, the eastern side was for the Eilas Ha'if. But if there was too much, then you would come to that side. When you would come up the ramp, you would go straight to the midway, to the middle ramp, right? And you would take it up to the center of the altar on the upper part, and you would do the malika there and push it against the wall. And that's the Eilas Ha'if. They don't want you walking around the whole altar because the smoke smoke inhalation for the bird would not be good. So if you're going to go to the other side, it's going to say that they have to go the other direction, to drive on the wrong lane. So, anyone that walks up the ramp of the altar, he always goes to the right side, which means we learned this before. You always turn to the right, which means that you go to the east. Go towards the east. You're coming from the south, you turn towards the east.
It's like driving. There's some countries you can drive on seven.
Oh, right. So a makifin v'yardim derech small. But however, when you on your way down, you go counterclockwise, right, and you work your way around to the left, and you come down on the left. Except if you're walking up the altar for these three things, or walking up the ramp. So then you would go you would go up on the heels, which means you go to the left. I'm sorry, on the left, but and you would go down the same side. That's what I mean. You would go up the way that you would come down. You drive up the wrong way sign. Where do we know this from? Rabbi Yeshua says, it says in the pasuk, where do we know that you use the southwest side of the altar for the sprinkling of the blood of the chatasai? It says, don't put on it oil because it's a sin offering. Don't make it look good. Because the chatas is called, we see chatas kriya mincha, that the carbon chatas that you were supposed to bring is called a mincha. Mincha kriya chatas. We say ki chatasi. We see that this mincha is called the chatas. So therefore, we have a comparison between a chatas and a mincha. Ma chatas tunetzaf enough mincha tunetzaf, and just like the chatas needs to be on the north, so too the mincha needs to be on the north. 1 second, we didn't say the north. Ma gasha. I'm sorry. Ma mincha b'keren ma'arav stream. It's just like the mincha was brought to the southwest. So af chatas b'keren ma'arav stream. So too the chatas, the blood is applied on the southwest. We're talking about the chatasai. Mincha gufei minol, and how do we know the mincha was brought to the southwest corner? The Tanya lefnei Hashem. It says that this is the laws of the mincha. The sons of Aaron bring it close in front of Hashem. Yachal b'mayrav. Maybe it means to the west side. No, it's supposed to come to the front of the altar. The front of the altar, we said, is the south. It's not on the south, it's on the west. It says, but you told me it's in front. How do you have both of those? Okay, tzad. You bring it to the southwest, to the point of the corner, and that's good enough. Rabbi Lezer, this is the Tana Rabbi Lezer, he argues, and he says, maybe you can bring it to the west side of the corner or to the south side of the corner, because every corner has two sides, right? Anytime where you find two verses that are contradictory, so one of them is you could fulfill it and its friend. And one, if you try to do that one, you're going to nullify the friend. You can't keep them both. So you take the one that allows you to fulfill both verses together. And it says L'fnei Hashem, that's b'mayrav. Then it can't be on the south. When you say in front of Mizbeach, that's b'darim. But nevertheless, kiyamta L'fnei Hashem b'darim, that's still, even though it's on the south, but it's still in front of Hashem. How? The Gemara says, Hechen kiyamta, how did you do that? If it's on the south, then it's not in front of the sanctuary. This Tana holds, which is Rabbi Eliezer, the Mizbeach is on the north. Mizbeach is on the north. So when you come to the south of the altar, you're directly in front of the entrance to the sanctuary. Okay, let's leave it over here. We're up to B'chol Makom.
What was this thing about? You sewed? And there's a gap in the,
Yeah.
okay,